Hey guys, today I want to chat with you about intermittent fasting and the 10 signs that point to intermittent fasting maybe not being so great for you. And the reason I'm making this video is because I meet with women one-on-one in my Spark sessions or chat with women on Facebook or Twitter, and I see a trend. A lot of people trying to push themselves into intermittent fasting when maybe they're not right for it. But before we do that, maybe you're thinking, okay, what is intermittent fasting? Intermittent fasting is when we're going anywhere between about 14 hours of no food to 24 hours of no food. There are fasts where you can go above that, but this is not that. And you may have seen a couple of forms of intermittent fasting where people recommend that you do just no-calorie drinks like diet drinks and water or coffee. And then there's like the bulletproof style intermittent fasting where you're having a fatty coffee. And then there's my form of intermittent fasting where you're having your rocket fuel latte. And I've linked up to that recipe right over here and down below if you want to see what that looks like. How does intermittent fasting work? When you are fat-fueled, your blood sugar is regulated. Intermittent fasting is a lot easier when you're eating fat because when your blood sugar starts to stabilize, when you're eating lower amounts of carbohydrates, you're able to go long periods of time without food. And the reason I remember eating a lot when I was eating high carbohydrate, like over probably around 250 to 300 grams of carbs a day, and plus that, especially when I was vegan, is that it's not that when I felt hungry, I was actually hungry. It was like, I just need something right now. And so by going high fat, we eliminate that need of, oh my gosh, I need to eat right now. And therefore, we're able to go longer periods of time without eating. And in intermittent fasting, we're going about that 14-hour mark plus. So when we eat high fat, low carb, like how I've outlined in my book, The Keto Beginning, we have unlimited access to all the fat in our bodies and all the fat that we're eating. So we have fuel for a really, really long time. So it's not just that blood sugar regularity that's reduced and therefore we can go long periods of time. It's that our body has fuel within us to continue to burn while we are not eating. Now, all the information I'm about to share is from my personal experience and working with my clients in my Spark sessions, friends and family who have joined me in their fat-fueled journey, and also multiple talks with my acupuncturist, my doctors, nutritionist friends. I mean, I have a huge crew of people that work behind the scenes when I have questions or concerns, or even with my own health. And know that this information is specifically geared toward women because I find that we need to be gentle with ourselves a lot more and make sure that our body is really balanced before we get going. Without further ado, 10 signs that point to intermittent fasting maybe not being so good for you. Number 1, you have a history of anorexia, bulimia, overeating, undereating, any type of eating disorder or disordered type of eating patterns, it may not be so great for you to intermittent fast. And the only reason I say that is because you've probably come a long way. Maybe you're in recovery and that's so great. But if you've come that long way, it can sometimes trigger past feelings and beliefs, and before you know it, you're down in the depths of eating disorder craziness. And so if you have a history of an eating disorder and you're in recovery, my suggestion to you would be just do an intermittent fast. Number 2, you have amenorrhea, specifically hypothalamic amenorrhea, or amenorrhea that's caused by a drastic amount of weight loss, or amenorrhea that's brought on by a massive reduction in food quantity, that you're reducing your calories to 1100 calories for like multiple months and then you lose your period. So amenorrhea is a loss of period. You're going to do far better eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner than you will with reducing your amount of calories or moving things around, because we want to send the signal to our body that it's safe. And one of the reasons for amenorrhea, especially the hypothalamic amenorrhea, is that your hypothalamus is like, dude, this body isn't safe. So if we are not eating for long periods of time, even if it's a rocket fuel latte, or even if it's a bulletproof coffee or anything like that, it might not send a strong enough signal to your hypothalamus. So this doesn't mean that you can't be fat fueled by still having breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It just means that you're not intermittent fasting, and that's okay. Number 3, you forced yourself to do it. Oh my gosh, I am totally guilty of this. I did it when I first started. I was like, I'm going to intermittent fast, and I'm on hour 10 and I am so hungry and I'm just going to push through it. That's not what we want here. If you are hungry, eat. If you're not, don't. Simple as that. Number 4, you expect that you may have adrenal dysfunction. And I talked all about adrenal dysfunction in a previous video a couple weeks ago, so head on over here to check out that video. I've also linked below if you want to listen to that. So if you suspect that you have adrenal dysfunction, it's best to avoid intermittent fasting because, again, we want to send the right signals to our body saying that it's safe. And also we want to pump it full of nutrients. When we have an adrenal dysfunction, we want to make sure that we're having as much nutrients as we can in our meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and that doesn't mean that you can't be fat fueled. Number 5, you are breastfeeding. So you need a lot of fat. So you've come to the right place. You need a ton of fat. But you also need a lot of nutrients and a lot of food, and you need to be able to pump out the milk multiple times a day. And in order to do that, I would suggest that you don't intermittent fast because the more nutrients you have coming in throughout the day, the better off you'll be. Number 6, you're pregnant. Yep, it happened. Congratulations. That is awesome. I'm so happy for you, but you shouldn't intermittent fast. Maybe if you've already been intermittent fasting for a super long time and you're totally rocking it, you want to keep continuing, I'll leave that up to you. Maybe a couple times here and there in your first trimester, maybe. But if you are just finding this and you're planning to get pregnant, or you just got pregnant, or you're like a couple weeks away from being pregnant and you're really in the depths of it, maybe don't intermittent fast. Number 7, you have hypothyroid symptoms, and I will be publishing a video about this in the next couple of weeks. It is an epic interview about all things hypothyroid within the low-carb, high-fat realm. It is epic, and I hope you love it. So if you have hypothyroid issues or symptoms, my recommendation to you would be do not intermittent fast, or do it a couple times in a week, but not every day. Number 8. Your sleep has changed recently, like since you went high fat, low carb. That's a telltale sign that first, you need a carb up. So head on over to my video about carbing up. I've linked to it here and below about the signs and symptoms that point to you needing to do a carb up and what that looks like and how to do it. So it's all there. But if you're having an issue sleeping and this is a new thing that just popped up, that tells us that you probably have a slight hormone imbalance, and it points to maybe intermittent fasting not being so good for you until you figure out what that underlying imbalance is, solve it, and then go back to work. Number 9. You live a highly stressful life and you have no idea how to handle it, and you're just like, all the time. And intermittent fasting may not be so good for you. And again, this goes back to an imbalance and making sure that you're properly nourished throughout your day, and the breakfast, lunch, dinner will send the right signals to your body saying everything is safe, and it's one less thing for your body to stress out about. Number 10, the final one. You have gut issues or imbalances, or you have multiple allergies and you can't figure out why all these allergies are happening and sensitivities, and it could be pointing to leaky gut and all these crazy things are happening, and you think you have SIBO and candida in your gut. If you think you have a problem with your gut, perhaps intermittent fasting isn't right for you. You'll notice a theme with all of these 10 things. Well, most of them anyway. In most of these circumstances, I'm saying that it might not be so good to do intermittent fasting if you are healing from something or experiencing an imbalance. So if you know, like, you have a clean bill of health, you are totally awesome, you are great, you've had blood panels done, and your thyroid is awesome, your adrenals are on par, you live a totally chill life, you're not pregnant, you're not breastfeeding, then heck yeah, do intermittent fasting. If you were one of those people, but you really like intermittent fasting and you feel good with it, continue. But maybe see how you feel doing like 2 to 3 days of intermittent fasting instead of every single gosh darn day. And also stressing yourself out when your friends invite you for breakfast and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm fasting then, how am I going to have breakfast? Just have the breakfast and intermittent fast the next day. So when it comes to nourishing our bodies with a high-fat eating style, I've definitely gone leaps and bounds by using fat and a lower carbohydrate intake to heal my body. And I just had a bunch of blood work done, and I will be looking through it all with my doctor in the next couple of weeks and then sharing all the results with you so you can see how powerful this way of eating is. And it doesn't mean that you need to intermittent fast or push yourself to limits, because I firmly believe that if you have an imbalance like a low thyroid or adrenal dysfunction's a little bit off, or anything like that, it's important to make sure that at the end of the day, we are eating as many nourishing foods as possible. And that's really what I'm going to be talking about in my next book, Fat Fueled, that comes out in just a couple of weeks in October. I've added a link below and up here to add yourself to a pre-sale list. So if you want to be part of the pre-sale group, you get like an awesome discount, invitation to an online event before the book goes live, and I really talk about the 3 different profiles that you can put yourself into in order to become fat fueled, but also thinking about nourishing your body and a therapeutic approach to a ketogenic eating style that gets you fat fueled, but isn't like pushing you into areas, because I find that there's a ton of resources out there where listening to your body and encouraging your body to heal within a ketogenic eating style isn't all that encouraged. So I hope to start up that conversation, and I'm very excited to share it with you in just a couple of weeks. And if you want to get on the high fat journey right away, the best place to start is with my book, The Keto Beginning. I've linked to it here and below, and you can give it a whirl. It's a 30-day guide and really a beginner's guide about how to do all of this. And if you love the information that I shared today, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. So you can do that. I've included a link right there, and you can go ahead and subscribe, and I will see all of you next Wednesday for another edition of my show. Bye!